Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Blue Abroad Show here on the Blue Abroad YouTube channel. It's Monday, the 13th of April. Galopaska to the Greeks who celebrated Easter over the weekend. I think that concludes the Easter celebrations, unless there's maybe one more. But nonetheless, great to have you here. Thanks for tuning in. If you've just crossed over from the rating show, hope you enjoyed the show. That is one of the final pieces when we review games. I think it's especially after losses, the rating show helps just get through everything. But yeah, thanks for being here tonight. We're going to go through a little bit more of Gather Round, not too much, a little bit more. I've got a guest with me. He's going to join me shortly, Mr. Jono Baroo. We're going to maybe touch a little bit more on Gather Round. He's also going to give us some insight into the AFL media podcaster debate that seems to be raging. It's just starting to rear its head a little bit. I know that those of you watching this probably saw the Gary Lyon video last week. Don't really need to say much more about Gary Lyon. I think that's it's all been done there. But we will talk about that. We will then focus our attention pretty quickly to Collingwood because it's Collingwood week. And I spent hours today wanting to answer a question. I wanted to understand the Carlton-Collingwood rivalry and how it even came to be. And I think I've touched on it in the past, but I've gone and done a proper deep dive and I've put something together which might help explain the story of how the rivalry came to be. The club did it quite a few years ago on their website, but I think it's really important as we step into and continue to move into the future that, I mean, you can't forget the stories. I've always been one to generally push back on the past and history, but it was actually in the process of making this Collingwood-Carlton deep dive video around the starting point of the rivalry that I actually learned something about our club that I don't think I truly understood yet. So anyway, we'll touch on that. I also want to get your input tonight. I would like you to think about your favorite, I guess, Carlton Collingwood memories. I'll put the link in the chat a little later on for you to call in. Doesn't matter where in the history of this club that you're born, whether you've seen the good times, the bad times, whatever. I want to just get a broad range of commentary around what the rivalry means to you, if it means anything to you, and then we'll go from there. So great to have you here. I forgot to set this up as the intro, but we had live scenes from Coachella. Justin Bieber got busted watching the BA show.
Got him.
Love to see it. Also, I mean, I don't know if you are all aware of what Justin Bieber did today, but classic shithousery. If you're not aware, this is just a complete side note. It's got nothing to do with footy, but just understand this. Long story short, he sold the rights to his catalogue of music years ago. And what that meant was if he ever wanted to perform his music live or whatever the case may be, he would need to pay a licensing fee. However, at Coachella, he played his original videos on YouTube and sung along to them, which is classified as karaoke, which is not classified as live, like a live performance of the song. So therefore, he found a way around having to pay for the rights to the people that bought his catalog. So anyway, there you go. Who's here with me tonight? Who was first? First cab off the rank. It was actually Paul. Hello, mate. Paul, the man who has travelled to Australia twice in the last 12 months to come and watch our Blues, has yet to see a win. We'll get there eventually. Good evening, good morning to you, mate. Hello, Mia. Hello, Wayne. Good to see you. Hello, Erin. Aiden. Hello, mate. You're not confident about the Pies on Thursday. I'm weirdly, I don't know. I've got a segment written here about what you're noticing around the league now that we're 5 rounds in. I'm not as fearful of the Pies. I understand we play them into form and all of that, but I think they're a little bit more shaky than what they're being spoken about at this point. So I don't think it's a complete impossibility. Hello, Bugs Bell. Hello, Frankie. Frankie says Sacks. Hey, Frankie, I like what you've got going on. I hope that's ready for this Thursday night. I don't want to spoil the party, but I want to see that ready for Thursday. G'day, Crossy. G'day, Gavin. Hello, mate. Blue Bagger. Hello, mate. Mia, is there training tomorrow? No, I don't think so. Or there might be training, but it's not an open training from what I know anyway. G'day, Fryboy. Damien, hello, mate. I don't know if you're watching the ratings. I need to apologize to you because on the team show last week, I thought you were literally just playing me with with the teams. I was so shocked that Hudson O'Keefe came into the team that I thought you were just trolling. Anyway, you are okay. So Frankie, he's working on a Carlton mix. If you have any great commentary moments from the last few years, please let me know. Yeah, he's doing like a remix of the Carlton theme song. It's quite clever. Christian, hello, mate. Yeah, I find that no matter how bad sometimes a bad loss can be worse, but oftentimes a regular loss doesn't seem as bad after the rating show. So, Tatum, good evening to you. Gorkan, good evening to you. Explicit Empress, the energy is war. Let's fucking go. It is war this week. Yeah. Tatum, this rivalry is the original rivalry. This was a non-negotiable. Genuinely didn't matter where each other were on the ladder, etc. Yes. Yeah. G'day, Wayne. Yeah. I learnt about this story today. I'm going to play the clip a little later, but I learnt about what happened in the very first Collingwood Carlton grand final. So there you go. All right. Let's bring our first guest in. We're going to talk about a few things. Mr. Jono Baroo. Hello, sir.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm ready for Collingwood.
Yeah, it's kind of wild that it's Collingwood week already, and there's a lot on these games usually, but it just feels like there's a little bit more in this one, just considering where both clubs are at. Like it's always a humongous game, but with our current predicament, Collingwood's predicament, and it's Nick's 100th game. There's a lot in it. So, yeah, it's a big week.
Is it Nick Dacos' 100th game?
Yes.
For fuck's sake.
There's always something.
Yeah.
There's always something.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll get to that, but we'll spend maybe 5-10 minutes max. I do want to get your take on gather round, your experience. Well, we'll start with our Blues. Were you going into the game expecting an 80-point, 100-point belting and came away thinking it wasn't an embarrassment, or were you just disappointed nonetheless?
It certainly wasn't as bad as I thought. Like I tipped Adelaide by about 54 points in my tipping competition, which I'm not doing too well in. So don't take your tipping advice from me. But I think by and large, I came out of the game just from watching it at home going, we certainly looked better, but nowhere near the standards where you need to be. Adelaide are a good team. They're missing arguably their best two-way runner and their best key defender and one of their best key forwards as well. And yet they're still able to turn it on, and we can do what we can do and look amazing for a finite period of time. And then we just don't have those other gears to go to. And I think we've all accepted that that's going to be our lot this year until one thing or another happens. But it's just, it was interesting. I sort of came away from that going, okay, it was a small step in the right direction, but it's nowhere near where we want to go.
Yeah. So it was reaffirmed to me when we did the ratings. I saw a bit of improvement in the midfield. Cripps was at his absolute best. Played, one of his better inside midfield games. Our issue, we've got a lot of issues, but I thought our forward line just continues to not be able to function. It's not dangerous enough. We're not able to get that right connection going forward yet. I know we recruited for it in the off season, and Hayward didn't play. I thought Ainsworth was solid early, like a few of them, and then faded a bit. I think we have a Harry Mackay-sized hole in the forward line. He just hasn't hit his straps yet. It's frustrating.
What was the rating that came out for Harry's game?
So Harry got a 2.5.
Yeah, it's about right.
Yeah, and it's tricky because we spoke about it earlier with Pommy. It's a lot of rhetoric. Drop him, do this, do that. It's like, well, I don't think we're in a position to do that. I don't think makes the comments wrong. We're just stuck in this situation. I actually want him to fight his way out of it. I just want to see some fight. I feel like he's got more in him to give.
Yeah, I remarked during round 1 against the Tigers that he was playing the role of a key forward, like a key back. And what do I mean by that? He's not leading his opponent to the ball. He's doing well in bringing the ball to ground, but you want to see him be big. Harry, you're 200 and something centimeters tall. You're taller than, I'd say, about 95% of the blokes out there on the field. Use your height. Don't just bring it to ground. Use your height and be big.
Totally. So, I'm really trying my best not to repeat, but I just want to repeat the point of this is what we are. We're a strong inside team. I thought we saw some signs of better spread through the midfield in moments, but once that game goes to the next level and you need to rely on another way to score, we just don't have it. It just becomes really clear, and we don't have it on the list. We don't have it right now. I believe anyway. I just don't think we have it. Our hands are tied to a degree. I don't know how you feel, but I feel this sense of it's the unknown. Where are we going next year? What are we doing next year? Who needs to play for the future? Who doesn't? What style do we want to play? I don't agree that we need to completely gut the contested side to our game. I just think we need to add the transition side to our game better and have a better balance. And so the games do become pretty repetitive, don't they? Like the flow of the games.
Oh, yeah. It's been mentioned here on this show and other shows that there's Carlton games follow a certain script and a certain flow, and you almost know exactly what's going to happen. So I had to miss the start of the Adelaide game, but I would probably tell what I could say. Yeah, we'll kick about 6 or 7 goals this quarter. We'll only kick 9 or 10 for the game. Sure enough, that's almost exactly what happened. I think Carlton just gets stuck in this flow at the moment that there's just there's just the cycle of where they're at. And it's interesting you talk about what style you want to do and not really gut the playing list, because there's enough good players on that playing list to be winning more games than we are losing at the moment. There's unquestionably, you go through that list. Yeah, you've lost a couple of rolled gold A grade or should be A grade talent, but there are still pound for pound good enough solid footballers on that list that should be able to win you a lot more games of football. My question, and it's probably a conversation for a later date and not so much what I've come on to have a chat with you about tonight, is that when it comes to style and people to sort of shape that next iteration of what Carlton's going to be, because I think it's pretty clear that this year is going to be a bridging year to something for Carlton, is that who, and talk it player, coach, administrator, list manager, who was the last great innovator at Carlton? Because there's an argument to say that there haven't been many.
Wow.
There haven't been many probably since we went into that AFL era. And it kind of feels like we've been chasing tail the whole time.
I don't think I've ever considered that question. It's a fucking awesome question. Who was the last innovator? So on field, off field, right?
On field, off field. Like look at some of the, if you want to talk about modern football, and particularly modern football coaches, administrators.
Sorry. Oh, Benny.
Oh my goodness. But getting us back on track, Frankie Les absolutely nailed the point, is that Carlton constantly looks like they are playing catch up. So how's the modern game being played at the moment? Gung ho, run from the back line, fast link up through the midfield, get these, quick, solid, whippity type players. And you'd have to say that's probably a brainchild of Sam Mitchell, right?
Yeah. Well, according to Andrew Walker last week, it was Brendan Bolton was trying to instill this at Carlton. The wins just got away from, the results just got away from him.
Interesting.
Yeah, he did an interview with the Blue Thentic boys, and yeah, they asked him about the Ratton days and the like, and then he was saying that the principles that Bolton was trying to instill at Carlton were the principles that he himself instilled at, I think he coached maybe at Bendigo, could be wrong there, but seemed to do really well. I mean, that's, and Walks was on the inside. That's his opinion, but yeah, no one's ever really asked that question. Like, when have we been the innovative club? I mean, I saw some comments here. It was like David Parkin, was Robert Walls, John Elliott.
And of course, the worry is now you look at the move that Carlton might make at the end of the year, whereas they move coach, they move on from a coach, they try another coach and implement a faster, direct game style, but already the game's already moving on to its next evolution. So I think it's on the likes of Graham Wright and Chris Davies, and that they have the potential to be the next great innovators at Carlton, and hopefully for everyone's sake that is the case. But it's been a while since you could say that Carlton have been really leaders of the competition. Get an imaging center at your own facility. Yeah, that's Australia leading. But is that going to help you win games of football?
I was about to say, we actually are incredibly innovative at creating avenues of different revenue streams. Off field, we are pretty innovative. Our community programs, our diversification of the way that we make money is pretty innovative. I thought actually the partnership with La Trobe University was pretty innovative. Yeah, the imaging center seems to be pretty innovative. Yeah. Well, there's something in that, Jono.
Yeah. Definitely worth unpacking. I'll say later date, not what I'm here to talk with you about today, even though I could yap on with you for a good long time.
I love it. Well, you reminded me of something that happened over the weekend, and it's a discussion that I'd love to have with you. I am going to share my screen and show you a photo. And this was the Brisbane Lions press conference on the weekend. Now, I'm going to assume that this gentleman here is a employee of the Brisbane Lions, maybe a media manager potentially?
That is Danny Daly, the Lions head of football.
Lions head of football.
Who everyone big raps on him potentially becoming a senior coach one day and following the Chris Fagan, David Noble path, going from administration into coaching.
Okay. So a Brisbane Lions employee and one journalist here.
Yes, that is AAP legend Roger Vaughan.
Now, I thought there was too many AFL accredited journos out there.
Yes. Well, there are twice as many people carrying one of these as there are to listed players in the game. So
Wow.
I guess I say one of the lucky ones because holding one of these is an absolute privilege and I do not take it for granted.
You're not lucky, you earned it.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate it. But so the amount of media that we are, and I guess it's important to have this discussion after it's been brought into the spotlight again this week about just the way that the game's coverage. Now, I guess for what Nick Brown, the Lions media manager who took the photo, made the point that, yeah, there's a one-on-one between Roger and Fags after the game, after the Lions have had a pretty good win. Couple of points. Obviously, the game's in the Barossa, but the counterpoint to that is that it's gather round. Everyone should be in the one place. There should be more than one journo at a post-match press conference. So I think what I wanted to do tonight, Tez, is just come on here, explain to you and to the chat and everyone watching at home, just, I guess, without totally breaking kayfabe or giving away too much secret source or rules. I don't think there are any. Just in terms of like what usually happens post-game and from a media point of view, and then the press conference and during the week and all that, and just, I guess, how that all happens and what the requirements are of different journos and people covering the game.
Yep.
Holding one of these things. Yeah. So I'll start it off with a question to you and a question for the chat. What do you think happens from a media point of view immediately post-game?
As in from if you're a journalist?
Yeah, if you were me in the media box covering the game, what do you think happens post-game?
I would guess you go down to where the press conference is being held, or your name is on some sort of a list, or you submit your name to some sort of a list to say, hey, I'm going to be at the press conference, and then you make your way to the room. Okay.
So for starters, let's go from about 10 minutes to go in the last quarter. So from about 10 minutes to go in the last quarter, you're not actually watching the game at this point. You're busy writing, getting your copy done so it's ready to go on the final siren. So the last game that I was in the box covering was Easter Monday. We all know how that game finished. So imagine trying to get your copy ready for the final siren, keeping track of a game that's going absolutely to the final seconds, really, and trying to make sure you get something in on the siren that's accurate, that's got absolutely everything that you need. So you make sure you've got that already, you send that off, and then what I'd do is you'd go down to the winners' rooms. You might get there in time for the song, you might not. And then if you want to speak to the player, you need to submit your request to the media manager. Now, the way that the rooms and the whole setup at the MCG is very different to Marvel Stadium, where you've got the press conference room, I guess, in the middle of the two change rooms. So it's very easy to go from one set of rooms to the other set of rooms. As I said, you might interview a player. You might just have a bit of a look-see and around and feel and capture the vibe, maybe scribble down some notes, and then you'd go into the press conference room. Now, one of the problems, I guess, and why people I don't think are turning up to press conferences is because they are so readily publicly available. Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night, they get broadcast live on air, and within 20, 30 minutes of them wrapping up, concluding, they are online for everyone to see. Like, you put them here on your show on Fancams post game and we watch them all together. So these are AFL mandated press conferences. They need to happen basically post games. And what you can almost guarantee at every single press conference is at least one or two of the Wise reporters. So that's AAP, Australian Associated Press, and Newswire. And they'll go out. And usually what happens is they'll ask the questions that sort of need to be asked. So it starts off with a Dorothy Dixer, really simple layup question. It's like, oh, so what do you think of that? What did you think of that? Or what do you make of the game? Type thing before it kind of goes around the room. You don't really submit. It's kind of whoever can speak the loudest gets their question in first. And really it just goes from that. But really from there, because everything's so publicly available, everything gets ripped, everything gets taken, and you can kind of really use all the quotes. Like, there's nothing embargoed, or there's no real sanctity about the press conference.
Okay.
So I guess the big issue here, and why I don't think many people, I think why you're seeing it less and less of why less people are going to press conferences, is because they are so readily available. The only time you'd really see a packed press conference is that if it's a really big game or a really bad loss. And again, like, there'd only be maybe 4 or 5 journos at these things anyway, particularly at these post-game press conferences. The only real times you'd go in to get something, get a quote or a specific quote, is to add to the story that you're writing. So I think Josh Gavlich from the AFL does this really, really well. He'd usually do a match report, he'd interview a player post-game, and then he'd ask the coach a question that relates to the player that is interviewed and the involvement in the game, and I'd use that in his copy for the feature that is writing later in the week. So it's interesting how people use the press conference, and also the midweek ones as well. Like, they're just as some
of them are just a waste of time. I actually find, I mean, the one that Harry Mackay and Tex Walker did to like open up Gather Round, I listened to that, and I thought that was just the biggest waste of time. I actually find the post-game presses the most interesting, because that's when emotions are at their highest. And that's when I think the coaches will actually give you more than what you think they're giving you, because emotions involved. If it's during the week, you're a bit more calm, but heat of the battle straight away, not so much. But just turning this to Carlton, because one thing I've noticed about the Carlton press conferences, whether it's pre-game or post-game, so many of the microphones are there. I mean, it's just a popular story. And then obviously we had the Gary Lyon commentary last week, and sort of, having a go at Carlton fans who now have a microphone and they're broadcasting their opinions and the like. How do you see this relationship evolving between, call it legacy media and whatever? For me, it's all media. I just don't look at it as any different.
It's interesting. Just to your first point, around all the microphones that a Carlton presser compared to say a Ross Lyon presser or something like that, or a Clarkson presser, that's got to do with timings and when the club decides to put it on. The AFL basically says to the clubs, you've got to do at least one presser with the coach pre-game and one presser with the coach post-game. And it's up to the club to decide, okay, when we want to put our press conference on. And if they clash, then the TV networks have got to decide which ones they want to go to or send people to.
Cool.
So that's to that. How do I see this evolving? Well, the AFL are really, it's not quite there jumping in the pool to allow everyone in, because I see what they're doing with the likes of Dan Gorringe on YouTube and other content creators that they're, for want of a better term, inviting into the tent to create content for them and do that. Does that mean that they're accredited media? No, they're not. They're bought in for a bit part thing, and they can get a accreditation pass for a finite period of time that's created for them. And then that's okay. Thank you for this. We'll call you back if we need something a little bit later. I think where this relationship is going is that you've spoken about it. I've written about it. There's been some other great writing about it this year, is that this is only getting bigger. And for the AFL to lean into it a little bit more can only be a good thing. Does that mean we need to bring back some form of embargo from the press conference, so there is more of a incentive for news outlets to send their journos to it? And whether or not it's the elite of like if it's a Jay Clark or a Glenn McFarlane from their old son, or if it's just like, I've seen some great suggestions. You go like, why don't you send the uni students or the cadets and give them the real taste of like, this is what it's like covering the game? Because most of the time at a footy game, there'd be about 3 or 4 Herald Sun, there'd be maybe 3 Herald Sun journos there, depending on the size of the game, and one of them would go to the press conference.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah, it's an interesting way forward. I don't know if opening it up to everyone is the best option or solution, but there's got to be a way, I think, that the AFL can, I guess, make them a bit more lucrative. Because I think back in the day, like I remember, this is a personal story. This was, I think, my one and only press conference for 2025. It was a pre-game presser at St Kilda, and it was me and Ross Lyon. That was it. Now, sure enough, this was the night that Carlton had absolutely capitulated against Richmond. So you can probably guess where everyone is. But I'm the only one at this pre-game press conference. So I had a 10-minute chat with Ross Lyon. It was intimidating and also brilliant. So it's also like, you want to open it up to give more people like me and like yourself a crack. People who know the inside out of their club, and people who know what people are thinking and what type of questions to write and put to these people.
You can't open it up to everyone. There needs to be some sort of level of some sort of parameters for behavior and standards of behavior. I like, for sure. Like if you 100%. Have AFL media accreditation, then there's certain rules you have to play by. That's just the way it goes.
100%. Like there's certain things that I can and can't do holding an accreditation pass as well. And so, just to I think to Tatum's Tantrum's point for his comment, I think you and I can both agree, Tez, that Carlton is opening themselves up a lot more to the fan channels and to everyone else. Like there was a day pre-season where I was there, you were there, Baggers Chat were there as well, and they've certainly embraced the fan side of it. It's more of a how deep into it do you want to go? And I think as an industry, an AFL media industry as a whole, they're still a little bit scared of fully diving in.
I wouldn't necessarily want to be at a post-game presser for Carlton, just because I'd much rather go to the fan cams. I'm busy.
Yeah, well, you get a much more raw reaction and feel to it. And you talk about
Yeah.
When you talk about how interesting post-match press conferences are, I mean, they sort of vary. You know, Chris Scott's the master of it. You know, if he wants to put something on the agenda, he will use the AFL's platform of a post-game press conference to put something on the agenda and be spoken about. If for some other coaches who get asked with the same questions every single week of why did your team play the exact same, why did your team play the exact same game for the umpteenth week in a row and have the exact same results, the press conference isn't going to be that interesting, right?
Yeah.
But you've got to be there to be able to make it interesting. So, yeah.
All right. Well, Jono, will you be at the pre-game press conference this week for the Blues?
Yes, that is tomorrow morning. So you can listen out. And at the moment, I'm planning on being at the post-game press conference, the Blues as well.
So, okay. You know you're going to be at the press conference tomorrow. Is that Michael Voss press conference?
It is, yes.
So are you know exactly what you want to ask now, or are you waiting until tomorrow, suss the vibe, see what happens?
I'm formulating what I want to ask to Michael now, and then probably on the drive from my house to Princes Park kind of go over it. But again, you've got to act on your feet, because if you don't jump in quick enough and your question gets asked, then you got to go to your next thing.
So, wow. Do you have to submit a question before you go to the presser?
No.
No.
Open slather.
Open slather. All right. Chat. Question. If you were at the press conference tomorrow, what's one question you would ask?
This could be interesting. Oh my
God.
This could be very interesting, right?
No, I'm curious, because I'm very curious. I would, if I was there tomorrow morning, I would for sure be asking something around Flynn Young and his development, and what does he need to do, or what's he working on, or what role does he need to, whose role does he need to overtake? Something about the balance of when do you know to push a player and when to reward a player, when to drop them, something like that. But Flynn Young would be the focal point of my question.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
like I don't want to give too much away, but Vossi did his press conference last week, his pre-game press conference, before we found out the news about George Stewart and the shake-up that was going to happen there. Kind of vaguely touched on it a little bit after the game. And I think all the messaging and all the line of questioning, I think, has been pretty poor, to be honest. Like, it was like, oh, do you have to put your arm around George and that type of thing? It's like, of course. I think Pat was very smart ass, but like knocked it on the head this morning. I was just like, no, I haven't spoken to him. I was like, what do you reckon, mate? We've been at training together. We flew home together. Of course I've spoken to him. Like, come on. So yeah, it will be interesting to see if there are questions about that and what came out in the review, and I guess almost how he views the Collingwood matchup. And I think also, again, not giving too much away from what I want to ask him tomorrow, is that he's been asked a lot about his future and got really testy about it. But I'd be interested to know if he's sort of been told parameters or KPIs in terms of what he needs to hit. Because, yeah, the club heavies are saying one thing, but again, if you put your realistic cap on, does he know that they're probably setting the marker a little bit too high for him?
Yeah. Okay. Before I let you go, give us your thoughts on Collingwood Thursday. Level of confidence.
Yeah, they're having a scoring problem at the moment, aren't they? So I think, look, we spoke about games going to script. So I think Carlton will definitely win the first quarter. then they'll probably splutter around in the second quarter, and then I think much like last year, Collingwood will adjust after halftime, but they're not scoring more than 80 points a game. We're scoring a little bit more than 80 points a game, and we're doing a lot of our scoring in the first half. So it will be interesting to sort of see how they go. I think this is probably the most vulnerable they've been under Craig McRae when Carlton have played them.
Yeah.
So it will sort of be interesting to see if they can lead into that. There's the sense of occasion there with Nick's 100th game. It's also Vossi's 100th game as a coach for Carlton. So that's going to be interesting. He goes into this game with almost a 50-50 record, if you can believe that. So it'll be interesting to see if the team can almost rally for him. Yeah, I give us a chance. I give Carlton a chance.
Oh, they were a lock.
Yeah, not confident, because you're never confident going into a Carlton game these days. But yeah, I'd say it's the biggest chance that Carlton have had in Voss's tenure.
All right. Well, Jono, that's been a very insightful conversation. Thank you for giving us the inside scoop. We will be definitely listening to your question on the team show on Wednesday night. So I look forward to seeing what you've got in store for us. And yeah, we'll chat soon.
Always a pleasure, mate. Thanks for having me.
No worries. See you, brother. Jono Baroo, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So before we get to the Collingwood stuff, I found out something today that some internal changes have happened, or maybe they had already happened. But anyway, allow me this. Now, I'm going to share with you some updates. So I saw this on LinkedIn. This is Apogee Sports. So stay with me. We're stoked to welcome Donna Price as Principal, Performance, Leadership and Culture at Apogee Sports. Donna built her career inside high-performance sporting environments with experiences across the Melbourne Cricket Ground, Melbourne Park, Victoria Racing Club, and most recently, the Carlton Football Club. So I'm like, that's a really interesting announcement. And then I went to Donna Price's account, or LinkedIn profile, and I saw that she had started, well, according to LinkedIn, her job at Carlton had ended in April, and her job at Apogee Sports had started in April. Now, Donna Price was actually the general manager of people, culture, and community at the Carlton Football Club from February 2022 to April 2026. Okay. But then there's like another added element to this. So this screenshot here, the first comment is a man named Brad Lloyd. Great to have you on board, Donna, an outstanding addition to the team. Then I was like, hang on a minute. Brad Lloyd is a director of this company. And now there's at least two of the general managers from the Carlton Football Club of recent history who are going to this new company. So basically, this new company is a company that's been set up to more or less help players transition from playing life to the real world and help them find jobs and things like that. But it actually gave me a bit of a light bulb moment, because I've realized there were I've had quite a few bits of information come to me over the years about some of the internal people that just need to go. And I'm led to believe that there's one or two more, and then the club can start healing. So I'm going to be very interested to see if these particular names start popping up over the next few months. And I don't know, I think this is a Graham Wright job. But these are the sorts of things that don't necessarily get spoken about publicly, but I was onto it. So it's interesting that your general manager of people and culture leaves in April, isn't it? Or maybe she had left earlier and then the announcement was only made on LinkedIn recently. But I think for an announcement to be made by the company, it's weird that it's happening in April. Is it not? Anyway, thought I'd get my detective hat on there. So I might ask some questions about that when I get a chance over the next few days. But just something to keep your interest in there. Now, let's turn our attention to the rivalry, Collingwood this week. So firstly, I'm going to play a video that I put together because I wanted to ask the question, where did the rivalry begin? Where did it start? Like why was there a rivalry? I used to think it was because of the great clashes and the grand finals that had happened in 1970 and the like, and I knew that there was a suburban warfare and things like that, and a lot of history with these clubs. But I went and did some digging, and I've put together this little video. I'm going to upload it as a separate video after this show tonight. So take a look. But also at the same time, I'd like to invite anybody to come on tonight and just share your experience with the Carlton-Collingwood rivalry, no matter what age you are, because I do think it changes depending on how old you are or how young you are. So give me a moment. I will just play this video and we will go from there.
Have met. Two teams.
Let me remove myself.
Steeped in tradition.
The year is 1892, when Carlton didn't just play Collingwood, we created them. Yes, you heard that right. We helped birth our own greatest enemy. So picture Melbourne, 1892. Carlton is already a powerhouse. Founded in 1864, it's one of the oldest clubs in the game. Collingwood, they're brand new. They're an expansion club. In actual fact, they were also known as Britannia, just a bunch of local lads from the working class streets around Victoria Park. They wanted to enter their club into the Victorian Football Association, but they only had scheduled 17 games. The league rules stated that you needed to have 18 games scheduled or you were not eligible. Enter the hero of the story, Carlton's honorary secretary, Jack Melville. At an emergency meeting, Melville stepped up and said, "We'll cancel our game against South Ballarat and play Collingwood 3 times instead of 2. He didn't stop there. On the 7th of May, 1892, Collingwood's very first senior match in history, Carlton donated their entire share of the gate takings to Collingwood, the new club. 16,000 people crammed into Victoria Park that day, and it was a tug of war between the old and the new. Carlton won this game by a goal, 3 goals 13 to 2 goals 11. Interesting to note, back then only goals were counted, so 3 to 2. Before the bounce, Collingwood fans actually applauded Jack Melville as he walked the boundary. They loved us. We were mates. Carlton even helped them recruit Billy Strickland, a star from our 1887 premiership team, and he captained Collingwood to their first VFA flag in 1896. Then came October the 2nd, 1910, the MCG, the first Carlton-Collingwood grand final, with a crowd of 42,577. It was a season full of on-field violence. The Victorian Premier even sent plainclothes police officers into the outer because the game was getting so ugly. Collingwood were leading in the last quarter, and then it erupted. A scuffle began between Carlton's Jack Backey and Collingwood's Tom Baxter. Backey cops an elbow, Baxter swings, Collingwood's Jack Shorten piles in and belts Backey. Backey retaliates on Les Hughes. Suddenly, 30 to 50 players, officials, and even some spectators are in on one of the biggest brawls you'll see. Umpire Jack Elder later called it the worst fight he'd ever seen in his career. Collingwood hung on this day to win by 14 points, 9 goals 7, 61 to 6 goals 11, 47. The tribunal hands down the hammer. Carlton's Percy Sheehan and Collingwood's Shorten get an 18-month suspension each. Backey and Baxter get 12 months. Then the drama really kicks off. Collingwood appeals Baxter's suspension. A teammate of his, Richard Dakin, steps forward and swears he was the one who hit Backey, not Baxter. The league buys it. Baxter walks free. Dakin takes the suspension and immediately retires in disgust. Carlton players and fans are furious. Historian Richard Stremski later wrote, "The last vestiges of goodwill between Collingwood and Carlton were pulverised at the end of 1910. From that day on, the rivalry was born in blood. Carlton vowed to never forget. We got our revenge in the 1915 grand final, and we've owned them in every grand final since. 5 wins to their 1. Class lines hardened too. Collingwood, the working class Irish Catholic powerhouse from the factories, and Carlton, the establishment club, with the suits and the politicians. 2 suburbs, 2 tribes, 1 war. And yet, here's the beautiful twist that we still play for every time we meet the Peter Mac Cup. Since 1993, the longest running charity match in AFL history. These 2 old enemies unite off the field to raise money for the Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre. Players from both clubs visit patients together, rivals on game day, allies for a greater cause. So when the ball bounces Thursday night at the G, just remember this. This isn't just another game. It's the latest chapter in a story we started 134 years ago. So there you go. Fascinating. What comes to mind when you watch that? I had a few learnings from this process today, putting that all together, which took fucking ages, by the way. But a few things came to mind from this. I'm curious to know, is there anything in there that you didn't know about Carlton or Collingwood or the rivalry that was new news to you? Petra, thank you very much for the 237. Rocco, they still haven't gotten over 1970, 79, and 81. Well, yeah, there was almost like this vow to never lose to them in a grand final again. And we did. We lost the first one, and then it's 5-1 since. Matt, yeah, it reminds me how far we've fallen. Okay. We are still the righteous club, says Wayne. Josie, Carlton created an enemy for life. You know, they might have created an enemy. We might have created an enemy, but it's for the good of the game. No? Up the guts. You just hate them because you hate them. Born to hate them. Respect them, though. Explicit Empress. It will be war. I just put that October date, 1910, up against the game this week. War. Okay. Paul, that was new to you. Okay. Erin, you didn't know any of that, which is impressive considering your dad and uncle are constantly talking your ear off about the history of the club. I've never really tried to be a historian or do that, but I actually find the older I get, the more interested I am in it. I'll tell you the 2 insights. I've got a few guests that are going to join me as well that have called in. If anybody else wants to call in, that's the link there. So 2 things. I have been under the impression, I guess this whole time, that we were the blue-collar club. And maybe there's an element of truth to that. But what I learned was we've kind of always been this club that's had the backing of the suits or the politicians. Like it's like the status club. It's actually always been that way. I think I was under this impression that we were hard, honest men, built this foundation, and then the corporates took over, which is wrong. And I was incorrect on that. We've always had these big, powerful people in the background of the club. And then the second thing was, just how the rivalry, I didn't realize it had begun from that 1 grand final in 1910. Rocco, you have the history of Carlton. You read all about it. It will always be the biggest rivalry. Yes. Well, there's one thing I've always felt about the rivalry is whenever I go to a Carlton Collingwood game, no matter what is happening, there's like an intensity in the crowd. It's like a generationally passed down intensity, which I've always found so interesting. Frankie, you remember Pie supporters being scared in 2023 at the thought of having to face us in the grand final? Yes, it's in their DNA. Colin, you think it means nothing anymore. It hasn't for years. Like Carlton, any rivalry is and has been dead for years. Well, see, I guess part of me wanting to go down the route to even study this was because I still want to make sure that there is a representation of the rivalry. And one thing I found when I was doing the research on the rivalry is the footage. I was able to quickly and easily find footage about the history of the rivalry on Collingwood websites and YouTube channel and things like that. Carlton stopped doing this stuff in terms of going back and talking about the history of the rivalry years ago. They had some representation early days of YouTube. I actually will tell you this right now. Carlton were on the front foot of YouTube 2011, 2010, 2011, 2012. And for whatever reason, they stopped doing it. I think they completely missed a trick there. But yeah, found that interesting. And you've also reminded me, I want to play you a clip that I found in doing my research, right? So this clip was around the first ever game at Princess Park in 1897. And I happened to stumble across this video, and you are actually going to see some people in this video that you might recognize. So obviously, I mean, the two people that I know personally there, Sean, I knew he had spent some time at the club working there, but just to see him pop up there was unbelievable. And then, yeah, Marco. So anyway, the things you find when you go down a rabbit hole. All right, I'm going to bring in some of you who want to call in and talk about whatever. Aiden, hello, mate.
Hey, Terry.
How you doing?
Yeah, not bad. Pretty excited for this Thursday. I actually like Thursday games. I actually like the fact that we're kicking off, start up a new round. I don't know if it's just me or not. A lot of people don't like Thursday games, but I don't mind them.
So, tell me, Collingwood, Carlton. You're a bit younger, so define it from your lens.
A massive rivalry. Two teams hate each other. Two fan bases can't stand each other.
Okay.
My family is divided between Carlton and Collingwood. So whenever there's been close games in the last few years, social media tends to get a little bit toxic.
Oh, yeah.
But,
it's poison, isn't it?
Yeah, it tends to get very bad, especially a certain game in 2022 that I don't like to talk about. But, yeah, I mean, a lot of people my age, they tend to not like Essendon more. And I find that pretty strange. I mean, I grew up, my family despised Collingwood. I mean, I don't like Essendon, but it was more so Collingwood. I don't know, it's the factor that two sides of my family support each, and that's probably a factor into why. But, yeah, look, I remember my dad telling me once, he goes, I don't care if we lose every game in the year, as long as we beat Collingwood those 2 times, it'll make me happy. And I think that's what pretty much sums me up going into this week. So, look, I mean, I don't like them, but you have to give them credit where it's due. I do have a lot of respect for them for what they've been doing over the last few years, if not the last decade or so. But when both sides are up and running, like we saw in 2022 and a little bit in 2024, then the league gets a little bit more exciting. But when both teams aren't doing so well, then, yeah, it's not as exciting. But look, I wonder how a grand final would have gone in 2023. So, look, I mean, we're never going to know. But, yeah, I'm obviously a little bit younger compared to most people. I've only seen a few wins. 2023 is the last one. Before that, I think was 2016. And then I think 2011 was probably my favorite one. No, 2012 in round 2 or 3 when we thumped them by, I think, 10 goals. So I haven't seen too many wins. But, I mean, I remember when we were batting 2019, 2018, regardless on where both teams were on the ladder, I think Collingwood were in the top 4, we were bottom 4. We used to give them games and a half, and although we didn't get the win, but they were still pretty entertaining games, and I think we could expect the same thing come this Thursday. But I do think the rivalry has kind of died down a little bit with the club especially, because with Collingwood, I think you're going to see a few times this week like how much they love it, how much they can't stand us. And with us, we don't really acknowledge it as much, which is, it's a bit disappointing, but you can kind of understand why. I think Wiedering said something which still pisses me off till this day. I think he said a few years back that it's just another game or something like that. And what he said there, and as you can tell, over the last few times we played them, the wins have been just by under a goal, under 2 goals, and I think that statement is pretty accurate with the games that we played.
I'm gonna quote someone, and I want you to guess who said this. So after a loss, who would have said this? The game was lost in moments, and we just didn't manage our moments in critical times.
Oh, Vossi.
That was Craig McRae last week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when I was... What's that?
I said like that. That's something that Voss would say.
Yeah, so after the game last week, they obviously lost to Freo, and pretty grubby game. It was wet a little bit. Obviously, had set shot late in games. I think Schultz missed. I think McStay missed. And I watched the press conference, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, that is a Vossism, or maybe it's a McRaeism." I don't know who said it first, but I found that really interesting.
Yeah, it is something that Voss would say, because Voss does tend to talk about moments and taking the little things for granted. But
do you think that's right? Do you think we also fail to take our moments, but we just do it consistently?
Yeah, we tend to do that a lot over the last few years. I think not every press conference, but he tends to mention a lot that how we just don't take our moments. I think he probably mentioned that when we did play Collingwood in 2024, the McGovern one. I don't know, I can't remember, but yeah, I think that statement, what McRae said, sort of resembles what we've been over the last few times. But
one thing I've noticed when I listen to the other coaches talk is how scarily they all kind of say the same thing.
it's
whatever part of their game breaks down, they'll mention it. The contest gets spoken about so much. Every time I think a coach talks about where the game went wrong, their starting point is contest.
That's pretty interesting because, I didn't know that. I didn't know that a lot of the coaches kind of articulate things in the same way, because I obviously listen to what Voss has to say. I don't listen to all the other coaches, but if that's true, then that's pretty fascinating. It's like that they're robotic, reading off the same script. But it'll be interesting to hear what Voss has to say, I think, tomorrow or Wednesday prior to the game.
We're going to get Jono's question and see what he says. What would you do this week at selection? You got 5 guys that would be available this week in Wiedering, Hayward, Lord, Dean, Hewitt. What would you do?
Obviously, I'd bring back Wieders and Dean. I think they're important. I'd bring in Flynn Young. Hayward. I don't know, the 5th. Probably Lord, maybe. I wouldn't bring in Hewitt. I think our midfield worked very well without him. But again, if he does come back, you can't let him and Cripps play in the same midfield. It just doesn't work. But an interesting thing is it's Nick Dacos' 100th. So I don't. Do we tag? I don't think we do anymore. Ever since Shinkola left.
It's also. Do you know it's also Voss's 100th game?
Yes.
100th game coaching us, I think.
I'd love to know his win-loss record.
It's 49. I think it's 49.50. Someone will know that in the chat.
Yeah, well.
I think it's 49.50.
Yeah, so he would basically have, a 50% win-loss record or whatever it is. But, look, it would be pretty nice to get one for him after everything that he's gone through. I obviously, wow.
49-49. How could I forget? It's 49-49 and a draw.
Oh, the draw. Yeah. That lovely draw. But,
we love a draw.
Oh, yeah. What a way to kick off 2023. But anyway, I think it would be pretty nice to get a win for him because, let's face it, he's human. He's gone through a tough period over the last 4 or 5 weeks, if not the last 18 months.
Yeah.
Obviously, I would have changed the coach last year, but again, if we can get over the line against our biggest rival, then yeah, I think everyone would be pretty happy. But look, I don't know how this game will go. I think I said in the chat before that you will see a big difference in class between both teams, because I think the ladder clearly doesn't lie. We're 16th, they're around 10th to 8th, and I think that's fairly even. But look, if we can beat them, I think that will probably be as close to a grand final win in probably ever, because we haven't beaten them in ages.
Oh,
And
I
after
hated your
everything that we've gone through, let's face it, beating them, it'd be pretty nice, you know. I think we'd all celebrate it pretty good.
You poor thing.
But,
You're just a scarred little pup.
Oh yeah, I mean, they've given me some nightmares, the Pies. But yeah, look, there's no question we have to beat them. But will we? I don't know. I think there's more hope going into this game than guarantee and confidence. So I'll be there definitely.
Well, I hope to speak to you on the team show Wednesday night.
Probably, most likely. We'll see. But if not, you'll see me Thursday.
All right. Sounds good, mate.
See ya.
See ya.
Hello,
mate.
Hey, Tess, how are you?
You at work?
Yeah, still doing a bit of overtime. So,
mate, love to hear it, mate. Putting in the hard yards.
Well, yeah. So,
what's on your mind?
Well, since you're talking about what's everyone's first moment of Carlton Collingwood, my first moment of Carlton Collingwood was actually my first ever game watching AFL football.
Really?
Back in 2012, round 15. That was the game when Sherrod Wellingham knocked out Cade Simpson. Unfortunately.
I remember that. So that's the first memory you have?
Yes, that's the very first game I've watched.
Wow. Yeah.
So I've only taken a few wins against Collingwood, but hoping for another one on Thursday night.
Confident, hopeful, bit both.
Oh, if we get it right at team selection, then I think we're in with a big chance.
What is the right team selection?
Oh, they definitely got to bring Waitering in. That's just a must.
For Dawson?
That's the hard one, because I don't want to drop Durson because he hasn't really had a chance to play with Waitering so much yet. I think I'd give him another game this week. See how it goes.
So bring out Young?
I think I'd drop maybe a Kemp.
Okay.
And then we could probably use Lewis Young as that forward ruck rotation. Because obviously the Collingwood's forward line is quite a small forward line, apart from obviously Membry and I think Membry's the only one they've got. Well, McStay too, that's right, yeah. So I think we need to go small in the back line. Keep Boyd in the back line. He's for his speed. And I'll bring in Cooper Lord as well.
Who's coming out for him?
I reckon maybe a Chera, maybe a Williams, if Williams doesn't get up enough as well. I'd say be 50-50 if he comes to get up with that knock. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
Okay. Do you usually tune into teams? I don't think I see. Okay.
Sometimes I do. Yeah.
We'll see you on Wednesday and see what they do.
Cool. Sounds good. And if not, I will see you next week, I'm guessing.
You will see me next week. I'm coming to Perth.
Cool.
First time. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I'll give you a message later on and chat you then, I suppose.
All right, mate. I'll be I'll have details around. I'll be at the function, the pre-game function, so
Sure.
we'll chat.
Yep. No worries. Cheers.
Good on you, mate. See you, Kano.
Good.
Tolls, you're here. Hello, mate.
Hello. How we doing?
Good, mate. What is on your mind?
I'm
Come on,
it's
Tolls.
kind of like
I know you want to believe.
Yeah, no, that's the problem. Before last week, I felt like I'm just kind of chill. I'm waiting for the turnaround to come. But I mean, I gotta agree with you. That was something there. And
What is
I
he
think
doing?
He's beginning to believe.
absolutely. But to get that, I think we need a selection masterclass this
Okay, so
week.
tell me, what is it? What does that mean?
I think I don't know. Look, I think we need. I'm not in the coach's box with them, but I think we need players that can. I think we bring in some of the youngsters. Some have been showing a lot of promise. I think Harry Dean and Wietering need to come in. We need to have a strong defense.
Yes.
I think Lord is an absolute must to come in.
Mhm.
George Hewitt, I love him to bits, but I think, he doesn't work well with Cripps. I think if anything, we need to get Hewitt some playtime for the rest of the year, because I think what we need to do is he needs to be traded. He's a great player, which means he's great draft capital. He's great trade capital, simply because he does not fit into this team. Because he's second to Cripps, and then Lord is shaping up to turn into the next Cripps when.
So who's coming out for Lord?
I don't know.
Hewitt's not in the team.
Hewitt's not on the team, of course, but honestly, I was looking at the lineup. Do we pull Ollie Hollands? Like, that would be aggressive. It would be an aggressive move. I think it's almost worth it. I mean, potentially Elijah Hollands comes out. I don't really know. That's kind of not the same position, though.
How will you know what a selection masterclass is then, if you can't define it?
You know it when you see it. I don't
Do you
know.
though?
No.
So,
talking
like,
about-
for example, if we had a beaten Adelaide, would that have been a selection masterclass?
I don't think so. I think there were some pretty baffling choices. Like you said it yourself on the team's stream last week. They kind of the selections have been very flat-footed as of late. There's not much desire to make big changes or like big decisions even. It feels like they're just going with what they know. I mean,
I think Hewitt was a pretty big call in the moment.
yeah, I know. I feel like that's been something that's been brewing for a while, though. It's the feeling that we need to try to make this midfield faster. It seems like the easiest tough decision to make for the selection.
Yeah, I think more or less, I don't think we have the speed on the list to
Yeah,
inject it into the team. I think we need to get it in the off season.
that's true.
So,
In the off season, yeah, we need more midfield speed. Zach Butters is floated around. He's out of contract.
the great white hope.
Absolutely.
It's the Carlton way.
Hey, Zach Butters is going in. He'll save us, and if he doesn't, Walker will save us. If he doesn't, Kuda's son will save us.
Lucas Kudafides will save us.
Exactly. Yes. And if he
I
doesn't,
love it. So are you working on Thursday? You sometimes work during the game.
yes, I am. Nervous about that.
Okay.
Always love watching. Love watching us play well in the first quarter in the tiny little screen at the top of the outlet. Then I go out for the last quarter and watch us fucking drop the ball. That's great fun. But hey, at least I'm there.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully we'll chat to you after a big, strong win.
Oh, we can only hope. I think this is we've got a chance here. I really think we do. I think what we've needed for several weeks, and I think the Adelaide game showed that, is we need a couple of games where we're the underdog, just directly the underdog, because there's too many games where we should have won that. Sometimes all you can do is just go out and shock the world. And sometimes you just need that. I think it's good for the psychology of this team.
Yeah. I love it. All right, mate. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you. See you around.
See you, man. All right. Guys, that's going to be us for tonight. It's very interesting this week. The rivalry, the drought. Collingwood have actually overtaken Carlton in the head-to-head historically. 135 wins to 129. And 4 draws. The reality is really this. Both teams are struggling this year. We're 1-4. They're 2-3. Just get the sense that rivalry games have this weird gravity to them. And you just the wins feel better and the losses feel worse. No matter what we do to cope with a loss on Thursday, in my experience, it's just any loss to Collingwood just feels different. It just feels worse. There's just poison in the air. As much as I try to block it out, it's there. And I just think, we are just one big performance away from helping to flip the narrative. I mean, I watched Essendon on the weekend, who just saw an opportunity to win the game, took it. St Kilda, I actually thought the St Kilda game flowed very similar to a Carlton game. Started off strongly, had to hold on, and then the time came where they needed to hold on and then fight back, and they did. For the Blues, we've had this story, this flow of the game. We start strong, opposition fights back. We just haven't been able to get to the end of the game and find that next wave of momentum. So we will see. But anyway, I will see you guys soon. See you tomorrow. I'll post that history of the rivalry clip tonight or tomorrow, and we'll have that sitting on the channel. See you all tomorrow, this week. Go Blues.